What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Brant Pargel Show. So let's talk some NFL draft. So I wanted to talk some of the top defensive tackles for the upcoming 2024 NFL draft, guys that are going to be eligible. So, we've talked a lot of draft eligible players, some of the top guys so far. So, we'll start with D tackles. Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State. Michael Hall Jr., really talented guy, super good athlete, moves very well for a guy that big. And Michael Hall is a guy that his playing time kind of decreased this year as Ohio State as the season went along. But if you really watch, this guy does flash some high-end ability. He is a guy who he knows how to. How should I'm trying to think of the best way to describe Michael. The guy that knows how to, when he stunts on his pass, like they use him, he stunts a lot when he pass rushes. He knows how to get past offensive linemen. He uses a lot of different things. He does use his hands pretty well. He's strong in the upper body. That helps him a lot to get past offensive linemen. So, yeah, Michael Hall, a really good player, and he really flashed in a couple games. Had a really nice game against Michigan State in limited snaps. Played well against Notre Dame. I thought he played pretty well against Georgia. He was in a tough position going against some of the strong interior offensive linemen that Georgia have in Van Pran, Rutledge, some of those, and Truss. So. But yeah, Michael Hall, this is a guy that, I think he has the ability to really take over a game, as you really saw in the Notre Dame game. A talented player, big time recruit, really got to show a lot of what he could do this year. Has only played in 16 games so far in his short Ohio State career. But yeah, Michael Hall, he's a guy that's number 2 consensus defensive tackle. So the big question mark is is he going to hold that position? I think that a lot of that position is banking on the potential being reached. I think there's a little more room to grow for Michael Hall. I think this is a season where he can kind of put all things together, kind of refine some of his technique, continue to get stronger, work at work at playing at a high level consistently. But yeah, it's all there for Michael Hall to really have a lot of success. We'll see how he does this year in 2024. But yeah, Notre Dame game, Michigan State game, there certainly was flashes of excellence. I think he was working through a little bit of an injury this year. Can we just see more consistency, and can we see him even take another step in his game? Jerzon Newton from Illinois. I really like Jerzon Newton's game. This guy, 6'2", 295. Really like the versatility this guy has. You see him lined up. I see him a lot in the zero tech, 3 tech, 4-eye, even 5 techniques. Guy that really can rush the passer, reads plays super quickly. He's always, what I love about Newton, he watches plays the whole time, and he can see them develop quickly. So yeah, this is a guy that he is just always, with his play recognition, he's always able to get around the ball. And this is a guy that when he does rush the passer, if he does get off free on a stunt or a blitz, you can really see him close on the quarterback in a hurry. So that's what's super impressive about Jerzon Newton's game. And I love his hand uses. He's so strong. He gets off of blocks right when he needs to a lot of times. So that's what you love about his game. Strong at the point of attack, does not get pushed back, holds ground against double teams. So in this, just plays at a high level against the run in the pass. So yeah, I really like Jerzon Newton. He's got an effective rip move, swim move. So yeah, it's all there for Jerzon Newton to potentially be the number 1 defensive tackle next year. Right now, he's a consensus number 3 tackle, but a really good player nonetheless. And yeah, I think his game is will translate well to the NFL. I think he's already has a skill set that will make him a high level player in the National Football League. But a guy that's played a lot of football actually thus far in his career at Illinois, enters his senior year in this year, and played in 2020. And played in 2021, 2022. So yeah, this guy that's got experience, and you feel like he is a little bit more polished. Maybe wonder how much more room there is to grow, because you see kind of everything he seems like he is a mature, developed player at this point, but you feel like there is a little more room to grow, and if he makes that improvement, I think that is what could, give him a strong case for the number one defensive tackle for next year's draft. Yeah, next guy, Chris Jenkins, Michigan. Chris Jenkins, as a Michigan fan, I kind of got a good grasp of Chris Jenkins' skill set, but when you watch his tape, you really get an appreciation for how good this guy was this year. Chris Jenkins, they say defensive tackles are some of the most unselfish players on the field. That is the case, really, when you watch Chris Jenkins, because it's like there was times, in the Ohio State, Penn State game where he's just like holding his ground against double teams, putting himself in awkward body positions, holding his leg, holding strong at the point of the attack, using leverage, so that he could open up a lane for a linebacker or another defensive lineman to come and fill. So yeah, Chris Jenkins, very good game against Ohio State. That was maybe his best game this past season, and played well. Those are the two games I watched some tape on, Ohio State and Penn State. You watch those games, you really get an appreciation for the high-level talent that Chris Jenkins has. And this is a guy who he really still has not played a lot of snaps in Michigan. You get a feel that this year could be a huge year for Chris Jenkins, and he's probably going to get the most snaps he's had throughout his career at Michigan. I know became the full-time starter this past season in 2022, but is really going to get a chance to get a full workload of snaps and really just flash all the ability this guy has. Really strong, really good overall play strength. You can see him. He's always in a position where he can see where the play is going. Strong against the run, can make physical tacklers, good wrap-up tackler. So, yeah, he's going to be a key focal point on the Michigan defensive line. Last year they had Mazi Smith. Mazi Smith kind of got a lot of the attention. I think this year, that's why Chris Jenkins chose to come back. He actually was draft eligible. He actually was thinking about declaring for this past year's, the 2023 NFL draft, but chose to come back, and I think that was a good choice because he's going to be the man on the Michigan defensive line. If he has a monster stat line, and then scouts can really get another year of film, another full year starting of film of how disruptive he can be in the middle of that Michigan defense. So I think that is, with all that being said, I think that is key ingredients for Chris Jenkins to fully display for NFL scouts what he can do and become a high pick. And he's a guy that's rising up the consensus draft boards, and rightfully so, because the traits are all there. I think it's just to me, Chris Jenkins is a guy is a typical guy that's lower on the consensus at this time, just because it's a small sample size. But the ability and opportunity that he's going to have this season is a perfect one for him to work his way into a first-round pick. It kind of reminds me of actually with Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson was just kind of like Chris Jenkins had, 1 year where it was, he wasn't really the main guy. If you remember, Hutchinson played, didn't really play as injured in 2020, but if you go back to 2019, he wasn't really the main guy as the edge rusher for Michigan. They had Kwity Paye was the main guy, but Hutchinson still played pretty well in 2019. Last year, Mazi Smith, kind of the main guy in the inside, and Chris Jenkins was kind of not really forgotten about, but didn't get as much credit as Mazi Smith did. Now with Mazi Smith gone, Chris Jenkins, the man inside, all the snaps he's going to get and more attention. So I think with all that being said, I think that, Chris Jenkins, I think he's got a chance to really make some eye-popping numbers in a heavy snap load. So, I just wanted to touch on Chris Jenkins, too. We'll go to the next guy, Tyler Davis, defensive tackle for Clemson. And what stands out about Tyler Davis, this guy gets off the ball very quickly. That was something that really jumped out to me about Tyler Davis. Now, he doesn't really get off. He cannot really shed blocks as quickly and as good a timing as Chris Jenkins, Michael Hall, Newton. That's one thing I did not like about Tyler Davis's game, but he is strong at the point of attack, and his quickness off the ball, he can disrupt plays in the backfield, but there is too many times where it's good quickness off the ball, pushes his guy back, gets in the backfield, but the running back just kind of makes a cut and goes the other way and still gets yardage because Davis does not really pose that threat to get off the block quickly. So that's something I noticed about Davis's game. But there's a lot of things to like about Tyler Davis's game. I mean, he is a good tackler. He does show some ability to rush the passer. The hand use is solid. You do see him kind of stall out a little bit when he is pass rushing. But yeah, I think Tyler Davis, this is a guy who I'm not sure. It's really early for me to project where he's going to go, but I think this is a guy that there's going to be an NFL team that really likes him and takes him early because I think that, to me, this is a guy that's going to have a high floor in the NFL. Like, I think he's a potential day one starter in the NFL. Maybe he does not have like the upside just because of because he's kind of some traits are kind of, he doesn't really have a lot of high end level traits, but I think he's going to be a guy who is impactful or is a really solid starter, a guy that you can plug in day one, and you know he's just gonna do his job consistently, and you're gonna get some good play for a long time in the NFL. I think that's Tyler Davis. I think that's why he's chose to return to Clemson because I think that he, you know, even though he's kind of reached mostly his potential, I think that he, to me, guys like this, you know, it seems like a guy who, he kind of reminds me of Derrick Brown a few years ago. You know, Derrick Brown, even though Derrick Brown, you can argue, still has some upside in the NFL, to me, a guy like this, like Davis, Brown, they were guys who, you know, coming back and just keep getting better, putting out more and more tape. It seems to really help guys like this. Now, I used to think the opposite because, you know, you would think that, you know, a guy is who he is at this point. But to me, sometimes the more film you can put out there, and even if you are a guy that maybe does not flash like some high-end level ability, I think then scouts will just be like, I just saw consistent, you know, Tyler Davis, you know, 2021, 22, 23, this guy was consistent, strong at the point of attack, quickness off the ball, check. You know, if you can check off all the boxes for scouts and you can show that you can be consistent for a long time, because you keep hearing coaches say consistency, and that's really what Tyler Davis is. This guy has been consistently good for Clemson. So I think with the track record of him being a consistent good player, I think there are going to be some NFL teams that really like Davis's game. I think it'll be a far stretch to me for him to be the number one defensive tackle in this class, especially with Mason Smith, Newton, Chris Jenkins. I think those are my top three guys. But yeah, Tyler Davis certainly is going to be a guy who, you know, maybe goes end of the first round, and some NFL team's going to be really happy, and it'll be a guy who sounds like he's a really good guy too. And I think is a guy that if he interviews well with all the tape he's put out and the consistency that he's played with, I think Tyler Davis goes earlier than people think, and I think he'll be a really good player in the NFL. So we'll touch on some more defensive tackles here. Rook Aurora from Clemson, another really good player. I should touch on, you know, him and Davis are versatile. They can play, I think they can play anywhere, the 0 through the 4-eye, 5 technique. Aurora can rush the passer, good against the run. He's a good athlete, may actually be a better athlete than Tyler Davis. But yeah, he's a really good player, and a guy I think that's just going to continue to get better as his career goes on. Could be his last, you know, he is draft eligible. That's why I'm talking about him. So could be his last year at Clemson. So we'll see if he chooses to come out, and we'll see how he performs. Him and Tyler Davis kind of a neck and neck, kind of like in the consensus 4-5 range. So yeah, we'll see about him. Mason Smith right now is my number one defensive tackle, but the big question mark for Mason Smith, how does he perform coming back from injury? The guy we have not seen since 2021. Well, I say 2021. He did play in the opener in 2022, but got hurt against Florida State. So yeah, Mason Smith. But Mason Smith, just his ability to win one-on-one, strong at the point of attack, so good against the run. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's, I mean, it's elite ability to win one-on-one, elite against the run. So even though it's kind of a small sample size, you can really pinpoint some elite traits in Mason Smith's game, and the size and his body too, I would say, is elite. It looks like an NFL body. So, I mean, there's at least 3 or 4 elite traits for Mason Smith. A lot of them are kind of to be determined, but I think that's why I would put Mason Smith as my number 1 defensive tackle, even with the small sample size, just because of all the elite traits this guy really possesses, and he's a really good football player. So let's shift gears to the tight ends here. So the first guy, Brevin Spanford from Minnesota. Spanford, a really nice player. This guy that's got good hands, good after the catch, shows the athleticism to actually hurdle defenders. I was kind of diving into his tape more and more. He is a good blocker. Shows the ability to block down, can seal off defenders, and really open up running lanes for running backs. He's got a pretty good body, good physical, or good thick muscular build. So yeah, Brevin Spanford, hopefully he gets more opportunities to really shine and show off his ability. To me, I'm watching tape. I don't think they make an emphasis to get him the ball enough, but I do like the versatility that he can get on the line of scrimmage, kind of the guy that's he can go in line and be the guy that's just off the line of scrimmage and be that blocker. They can split him out in the slot. He does show that ability. I do like his releases off the line of scrimmage. I think they're fairly fluid. I think they're fairly quick. So yeah, there's certainly a lot to like about Brevin Spanford, kind of the consensus number 3, 4, 5 tight end. So yeah, we'll see how he performs. Can he work his way into maybe that number 2 spot? I feel like Brock Bowers is kind of penciled in that number 1 spot. But yeah, how high can Brevin Spanford move this year, especially if he has a really productive season and he flashes a lot of ability as far as catching the ball? Oronde Gadsden is another guy I really like from Syracuse. Gadsden is a really nice pass catcher, a guy that's really good after the catch. He adjusts to the ball super well. He's got really good body control. So yeah, I think that last year there was a guy I really liked from Syracuse, and Sean Tucker. This is kind of my guy from Syracuse. This year, Oronde Gadsden. I don't think. To me, it's too bad Syracuse players just don't get enough credit, because I think this guy has a really nice skill set that translates well to the NFL. Now, he's another guy like Brevin Spanford. You just want to see more catches, more. Hopefully, the Syracuse offense features this guy more, because he just really has some high-end level ability. So yeah, I'm a fan of what Gadsden can do. He's a really nice player, almost as like a wide receiver in a tight end's body. Now, I haven't really broke down his blocking too much, but as far as a receiving threat, it's all there for him to be one of the top tight ends. If you're strictly talking his receiving ability, he certainly makes a case in that area as being one of the top tight ends in this draft class. Ja'Tavion Sanders from Texas. So Sanders, the name of his game, for the most part, is blocking. He's an excellent blocker, whether it's blocking down, blocking off the move, pass protection, can hold anchor, sustain in that aspect of it. So yeah, Ja'Tavion Sanders, excellent tight end from Texas, former 5-star guy. He's likely probably going to be the number 2 tight end in this upcoming draft. But yeah, Jaheim Bell back rising up draft boards. If you remember, Jaheim Bell was at South Carolina last year. He could have declared for the 2022 draft, chose to come back. So yeah, Jaheim Bell, this is a guy who with a lot of high-end ability, and I think that you saw him used in a number of ways in the South Carolina offense, out the backfield, in the slot, just in line, just off the line of scrimmage, similar to the way I was talking about Brevin Spanford. So yeah, I think Jaheim Bell, really, really good football player, and I think he's a guy that's got a really good NFL skill set. We'll see how he does this year at Florida State. Florida State got a lot of mouths to feed. Johnny Wilson, Keon Cole, Coleman. They got Trey Benson in the backfield. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many times Jaheim Bell does get touches out the backfield, or how many catches he can get. So it's likely he's probably not going to have the most productive season this year. Maybe he does, but likely there's a high chance that he doesn't. So I think that with everything he's put on tape, and just a really, a solid year this year as far as the pass catching the ball is concerned, and then can he show more ability as a blocker? With that being said, there's no reason why he couldn't be the consensus number 2, 3 tight end in this draft. So let's talk Ben Sinnott from Kansas State. This is a guy who he flashes a lot of ability. This guy knows how to get open, strong after the catch, can break tackles, a big body. He's another guy he's rising up draft boards right now, and I was not really familiar with his name until the other day. But yeah, Ben Sinnott from Kansas State, another guy to keep in mind. Like I touched on, big body, can work the middle of the field, can make catches with the guys draped on him. So yeah, I like his game a lot. So yeah, this tight end class, it's a strong unit overall, led by Brock Bowers at the top, Ja'Tavion Sanders from Texas, Jaheim Bell. Really strong unit. I think there'll be guys that could potentially rise, like Gotson from Syracuse, Cade Stover from Ohio State too. Cade Stover, another guy, big body, can work the middle of the field, just a big physical guy that's just tough to bring down, a lot like Sinnott from Kansas State. And Stover can block, and he does show some nastiness, aggression, will get after it. So yeah, Cade Stover, another really good tight end too in this class. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this tight end class is viewed. The tight end, it is talked about a lot. You got guys like Travis Kelce, George Kittle that have really showed the premium of how important the tight end position is. But it'll be interesting to see how the NFL views, the NFL evaluators view this class, and how what they think about some of these high end players, and how high does Brock Bowers go? I think Brock Bowers goes probably somewhere in the 5 to 9 range, 5 to 8 range. I know obviously it's way too early to project stuff like that, but how high does a tight end go? We had this discussion with running back. How high does a running back go? How high does a tight end go? I think that'll be an interesting discussion with Brock Bowers. But yeah, I mean, that leads to the next question. This is at this point in time, kind of a foolish question. Does anyone challenge Brock Bowers for tight end 1? I'll throw out some other name. Benjamin Urasek, another interesting guy from Stanford, but I don't know if he'll challenge. Does Ja'Tavion Sanders, does Jaheim Bell, Ben Sinnott, do any of those guys, Cade Stover? I think if there's one guy that could actually sneakily challenge, maybe not challenge Brock Bowers, but could be the number 2 just right behind him, it is Cade Stover. Because Cade Stover, this is a guy with a lot of athletic ability. I think he's still it looks a little bit raw, like he doesn't look like he fully grasped the tight end position yet. But I think this is a guy that, if he takes another step this year with the physical traits he has and the blocking ability he shows, then I think maybe Cade Stover does move into that number 2 spot and is kind of just right behind Brock Bowers. But yeah, I would say at this point, probably you got to put Ja'Tavion Sanders there at tight end 2, just because Ja'Tavion Sanders is such an excellent blocker. But yeah, strong tight end class as a whole. Be fun to see. Brock Bowers play this year. Be fun to see how these guys are ranked, how NFL evaluators, how high some of like the tight end 2, tight end 3 in this class go, and who has the tight end 2, who is tight end number 2, who does go second overall in this class. I know we're not going to get that answer for a long time, but that'll be very interesting to see, because I know, to me, I think if you look at draft rankings from a lot of different websites or a lot of different people, I think that you'll get a lot of different answers for or a lot of different opinion on who's tight end 3, who's tight end 2, who's tight end 2, who's tight end 3, who's 4. I think you'll get a lot of different looking top 5s, with obviously Brock Bowers anchored at the top, but there'll be, one website will probably have a guy Top 5 who's not even on the top 10 in some lists. One website will probably have a guy who's number 2, and then another website will have that guy at 5. So I think it'll just the 2 through 5. I think is, I guess the point I'm trying to make is going to be all over the place. The one position I don't think is going to be all over the place is running back. I think at running back you do have a strong top 5, or you do have I think there is kind of a consensus. There's not really a consensus number 1, but I think there's kind of 5 guys in the mix as the top one. Trey Benson, Florida State; Braylon Allen, Wisconsin; TreVeyon Henderson, Ohio State; and then Quorum, Edwards in there. So I think those 5-6 guys, Montrell Johnson from Florida is another guy I think that could rise. So I think those 5-6 guys with maybe a couple risers, I think that's going to be the consistent top 5, 6, 7 guys you'll see. Blake Corum, a lot of people do like Blake Corum. Blake Corum really has put out a lot of high-end film, but you got to like guys like, TreVeyon Henderson's got a really nice skill set just because he can run, or he's such a good runner and catcher of the ball, along with Donovan Edwards. Trey Benson, that physical pounder type of runner who does have some explosiveness, can break some long runs. Braylon Allen would be my number 1 running back just because he can break tackles, guy that can burst to the outside. Just such a smooth runner, and his long speed is excellent, can break some big time runs. So I would go. Braylon Allen would be my RB1. Raheem Sanders too. I'd throw him in the mix. Raheem Sanders is just a guy. He's a guy that just is appealing to the eye, and what I mean by that is this guy just like fights for. You got to love the way he fights for extra yardage, runs through tacklers, falls forward consistently. So just, Raheem Sanders, just how fun he is to watch, and kind of the vibes you get of Marshawn Lynch, a guy that just wants to punish defenders, do everything he can to break tackles, fight for yardage. I think that's what's really appealing and draws people into Raheem Sanders, even though I don't think he has as high an upside as Benson, Braylon Allen, and maybe even like Blake Corum and Henderson, even though I don't know if he necessarily has the overall skill set and high-end potential that those guys have. Raheem Sanders, a really fun player nonetheless, and an excellent running back, and I think a guy that is going to carve a really nice role in the NFL. Maybe even as a starter, or if not a starter, a high-end backup who will or like I said, will carve a path and find a role in an offense to succeed. But yeah, I mean, strong running back class. I've talked about the running back class a lot. I think it's a really good class. So yeah, today we talked running backs, tight ends, and defensive tackles. Yeah, the defensive tackle class. Happy to see a stronger defensive tackle class. We have not seen a really strong defensive tackle class in a while. But yeah, Mason Smith would be my number 1. I actually would put Jerzon Newton number 2. Newton is a guy that you really have to watch. You really have to watch like a full game of his tape to really get an appreciation for kind of the awareness and ability this guy has. He's a guy who, he understands he's not going to make a big time disruptive play each play, but I like that he takes the approach that he's going to do something to help his teammates make a tackle, whether that is just hold a guy up, take on a double team, pass rush, work 2 guys in the pass rush, stunt, just do everything he can to, throw an offensive lineman on the ground, even if he's away from the play. Do everything he can to make his presence felt and really help his teammates make plays and help them get to the ball. But yeah, defensive tackles, Hall, Newton, Chris Jenkins, Tyler Davis, kind of guys I wanted to touch on there. So yeah, really like the defensive tackle class. And then yeah, the tight end class. Brevin Spanford, I want to keep watching film on. I like Spanford. I think I like his game a lot. I think Minnesota could be a sneaky good team this year. So I got to wrap with that. Thanks for tuning in to the Brant Marshall Show. Stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show.